Well, hello, everyone, wherever you are. You look so beautiful. Seeing you all of you, just wishing that I could have a conversation with each one of you. There's some people I haven't seen in a long time. So welcome. This is a special time for us. This What Matters Now session is the 6th one in the series that we've done over the last year. This series was originated in a kind of brainstorm between me and Diana and Kevin Gallagher as we thought about celebrating the 10th year of doing the council work, which Diana and I, with our dear friend Susie Moser, dreamt into starting in about 2010. And it eventually became an actual council that met in 2014 with Willa and Diana as part of that original group. So here we are celebrating, and the 6th session of What Matters Now on presence. We're really blessed that Willa and John Bales are joining us to think about that, and Diana is going to host the conversation. I just wanted to say hello to everybody and remind you that this is this arc that we've done over the year, where we started with slow down and listen as the first call to what matters now, and then took up learn and unlearn, leaning into the cracks with Bio Agamalafe, and then to connect, to know our interconnection with all being. Last time we thought about wonder, and today we're taking up presence. I think we all really need these calls to what matters now, and the resource and inspiration that our dear community offers each other. So I'm so grateful to Diana and Willa and John for this session, and to Kyle for hosting. And I will hand it over to you, Diana.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Well, first of all, I do want to say thank you for the backstory for these sessions. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you as the instigator. Kevin and I very much enjoyed working with you on it, but it was your inspiration. And with so many of those, this one has really been a deep and rich set of explorations, really special for all of us, I think. And just to say that they are all online, and will be. So if anybody wants to go back to them, any one of them or all of them, they're there. And I gather people have been using them in that way. So they're a moment in time, but more than that, they're timeless. So, and then a quick word about our setup here. We had a quick check-in earlier in the week, and both Willa and John were sitting in front of these beautiful tonkas, and I said, you know, I have one somewhere, and I walked over in my apartment, and I have this very beautiful tonka that was given to me by the Queen of Bhutan as her daughter graduated from Wellesley, and so we agreed I had to figure out some way to sit in front of it. So I've rearranged the furniture, and here I am in front of this gorgeous tonka, which once I showed it to my partners here, Sarah said, well, that is presence. That's the very essence of presence, that image of the whole universe from Bhutan. So that may be my most important contribution. First of all, though, as always is our practice when we convene, all of us, I'll invite us to take a moment to settle into the session, to do whatever helps you bring yourself more fully present in this moment, as we anticipate a morning focused on the qualities of presence. So if you like, you might pause to feel your feet firmly on the ground and your seat on the cushion or the chair. Maybe take a deep breath. And then 1 or 2 more slowly, consciously. We have the calming anticipation of more breaths to follow with these 2 wonderful speakers. So we can allow the feeling of the breath expanding and contracting to draw our minds down into our body, something Willa teaches so very beautifully. and begin to feel the release of thoughts of the past and of the future. So with that, let's turn ourselves over to our two expert presenters. I was tempted to say presencers, but we have Lama Willa Blythe Baker, a lineage holder in Tibetan Buddhism, and John Bales, formerly recognized as a Zen Buddhist Roshi. So Lama Willa and Roshi John. Willa is the founding teacher and co-director of the Natural Dharma Fellowship in Boston and its retreat center Wonderwell in Springfield, New Hampshire. I've been there. It's absolutely beautiful, beautiful spot, beloved by many. John's the Buddhist chaplain and advisor at both Wellesley College and Amherst College. Those are two educational and also spiritual communities that I have known well. Both of them are very lucky to have John. Both Willa and John, as Sarah has said, are quite active in the Council on the Uncertain Human Future, have been and will be. And both, of course, are very well known to many of us. So we are very fortunate to have them. Sarah sent out the announcement, and you have more expansive biographies of them, so you can look at them later if you like. But perhaps all we need to say for now is that both Willa and John embody, exemplify, teach, and faithfully practice the qualities that we explore today under the one-word rubric, presence. So Willa, we'll start off with you, if you're willing. And a simple prompt. The word presence carries a multiplicity of meanings in the English language, clearly. So what does presence mean to you? How do you think about it? How do you define it? How do you seek it and know it? And would you share a way or ways that you live within or work with presence? So take it away, Willa.
Thank you, Diana. Well, interesting that you said in the beginning of our time here just now that the videos that you're putting up would always be there. They're timeless. They're timeless. And I do connect to the idea of presence through this idea of timelessness, and that that there is a kind of presence that is this radical here and nowness, something like the here and nowness. So I was thinking about that with regard to this opening time together, and the doorway that I've explored presence in my own life is through the practice of meditation and the practices of that come out of the Buddhist tradition, and specifically the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. So I'm going to be kind of speaking from that perspective, or from that that background. I see presence as a practice, not so much as a reality, but as a practice that we have to keep coming back to. And when you were saying, I was chuckling to myself, Diana, when you were saying that we embody presence, and I was like, it's an ongoing process, right? Because of course we're, this mind, it loves to ruminate on the past. The mind loves to anticipate and worry about the future. And so to return to this radical here-ness and now-ness takes this ongoing commitment. It's an ongoing commitment to be present. So about the timelessness, I wanted to pull up this quote that I was looking for and did find from Longchenpa for this morning. Longchenpa is this Tibetan Buddhist meditation master who lived in the high plateau of Tibet in the 14th century. And he's kind of known as this yogi who really holds this commitment to the here-ness and the now-ness, what we might call presence, being really embodied in the now. And he connects that being embodied in the now to something that is already innate within us, that there's a part of our sentient organism that is dwelling in the here and now, even when the mind is racing into the past and the future. And he calls this part of the self that is dwelling there, he calls it awareness. He calls it awareness. So just going to read this quote and just as a point of reflection. This self-arising awareness is timeless. Seen when words and thoughts and talk have passed away. To see it then as time, there is a dimension when the three aspects of time are no time. He's talking here about past, present, and future, are no time. A before and a later can no longer be distinguished. So he's saying that there's something about when we really settle into awareness, this deep part of us that is just conscious, when we can do that, we connect to this time out of time, this timelessness, this ability to be so radically present that there is no before and after, there is just now, only now. So I think this idea of a fourth time, as Longchenpa called it, a time that is outside of linear time, a time outside of the linear time, is important for us right now when we are struggling with our sense of urgency and struggling with the sense that we only have so much time before something, right? Before the collapse, before the impending. And we actually have another place to be than that. There is another place where we can dwell. And that is in this sense of a timeless now that isn't bound to some imagined future, but is actually rooted in this very knife edge of the present moment and what is happening. So being able to dwell there is important because things are not going to get easier necessarily. And so to learn to be present with what is going to be a resilience tool for right now in these difficult times, a resilience tool and a tool that lets us see there is an alternative to being caught in a perpetual sense of urgency. There's an alternative. There is the resting in the here and now. And if we can rest in that here and now, we can actually begin to move forward with deeper intention and deeper sense of groundedness. Yeah, so I love this. For me, that's been a very helpful concept. So I wanted to share it with all of you. This notion that there isn't just a linear time. There is also the possibility of contacting a time that is very vast and very here now in which there is no urgency. There is only embracing the truth of what is, and that we can contact that. And in contacting that, we can find a greater ground for acceptance and action, a place to act from, a place to act from a depth of spaciousness that lets us hold the entirety of what is. So, oh, maybe that's my reflections, and I'll turn it over to John or to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll take it back for a moment, and then we'll have a chance. We'll turn it over to John. We'll both turn it over to John, and then we'll have a chance to come back and reflect together. That's a very lovely way to start us. Thank you so much. So, John, in your beautiful setting, which also just speaks presence. So the same question to you: what does presence mean to you? What enables you to think about it, define it, seek it, know it? And I know, because you've told me, that your first answer is going to be a series of images. So from John, what does presence mean to you? John, they've muted you. You need to unmute. I think something automatically muted us all during the video. You need to unmute.
Now you can hear me, I hope? Yes, okay. So I'm a very lucky person. I one of the bits of luck is that I get to work on this very beautiful college campus at Wellesley College, and I get to walk around. And all of those photographs were walking around the Wellesley campus. One of my favorite places is when I drive into the campus, I circle around and come in behind what's called the chapel, in what are called the old tennis courts, which is now a parking lot. And I get out of my car and I stand. And I sort of wait, not a long time, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, something like that. And then I walk around to the other side of the car, open the door, and get my pack and so on, and start walking towards the building where my office is. And I look down, and I see peeling paint and gouges in the asphalt and leaves blown at different seemingly random places, and the light glistening or shadows in places that you and I would just think, oh, that's a parking lot. And seeing these literally helps change me, and then sharing them with people also helps bring other people to recognize space, shape, form, color, light in a way that when we are ensnared in time, the linear time that Willa was speaking about, is often not available to us. So we all live in a time when there always seems much to do, and also so much going on and so much to worry about. So much deep empathy for the difficulty of life. So to have these moments of experiencing asphalt, or experiencing leaves, or light, or a rotting piece of wood right at my feet, at our feet, to be present with that, just to feel it, can be quite freeing. And in my experience, this is everywhere in our life. And it's a matter of allowing ourselves to just be, what do we call it? We call it present. But do we know what that is? When I share in the mindfulness classes at Wellesley, a practice called aimless wandering, which most of us in the modern world have a difficult time doing. And Wellesley students even have more of a difficult time. Do you mean I'm not supposed to have a place to go, a goal? I'm not going from here to there? And no, just stand, feel the air, feel the slope of the ground, feel the grass, smell the earth, feel the coolness of the air on the back of your ear. And how do we learn to do this? It's most difficult. It's so simple that it's hard to do. So one of the practices that I do with mindfulness students and Zen students is learning to be with our breath, not like a concept, and literally feeling the physical sensation of breathing and bringing our attention into our body. Initially, simply with, say, the palm of our hand on our diaphragm. And bringing our attention to our diaphragm and the palm of our hand, and not so much focusing on how we're breathing, but feeling breathing in our body. And this does a number of things. Even our neurobiologist friends tell us this. It affects deeply our nervous system. It's one of the most direct routes to changing our experience, in the sense that we move from our general adrenal cortisol mode, which is what's happening in the future, what happened in the past, how am I going to get there, what is this going to be done, so on, to, just breathing and allowing whatever thoughts or feelings are past or present to be there. But just be present with our body. So then our heart rate slows, our respiration rate slows, our blood pressure drops. All of this has been measured by our friends in science. And another interesting piece that occurs, this happens practicing this for 5 or 10 minutes a day. Even if while we're standing there or sitting there thinking, oh my God, I have these thoughts, I have all these things to do. I'm not capable of meditating. These physiological effects occur. So there's something that happens beyond our perception, our formation of what's occurring, our interpretation of what's happening. There's something going on larger than our anxiety. A place to be already. I think this is this place that our friend longtime speaks about. It's always there, and it's always innate within us. So there's a Zen story, of which there are 6 zillion, but a student asks this famous Zen master in China of the 8th century, why did Bodhidharma, the first ancestor of Zen, an Indian, come from the West, India, to China? And Zhao Zhou says, the oak tree in the courtyard. Now, for most of us, this is a huge stumbling block. How did Bodhidharma know about the oak tree in the courtyard, when the courtyard was 300 years after Bodhidharma, and Bodhidharma came from India? Recently, I put up a meme on the Instagram, which showed the rings of an oak tree, half rings of an oak tree, and the rings of a thumbprint. And they were very similar. There's something about this presence that connects us with oak trees, that actually allows us to breathe with trees. And this is beyond scriptures, if you will. This is beyond theology. This is about experience. It's about being present. And there's this other Zen saying, what was your face before your parents were born? This is a face that has released its eyeballs. This is a face that has released its cheeks and its lips. This is a face that knows its tongue and the roof of its mouth, and the roots of its teeth and the bones of its jaw. This is a face that is aware of the back of its skull, its shoulders. There's another sort of Zen meme. Looking with your elbows and listening with your knees. How can we do that? And this relates to another Zhao Zhou story. The Zen student comes to him and says, what is meditation, teacher? And Zhao Zhou says, meditation is non-meditation. And the student says, how can meditation be non-meditation? And in the typical sort of Zen meme, Chow Chow shouts, it's alive! So many of us think that meditating is about sort of damping down and calming. But literally, it's about being alive in every pore of what we experience or we think is our body. And as we become alive that way, we literally forget. How shall I say? We forget the limiting reality or limiting formation of the idea of a self. It doesn't mean that we don't have some experience of there's something here feeling this. But that contact and deepening that contact brings to life our entire relationship with our interdependence and interpenetration throughout time and space. And it begins simply with making contact with our diaphragm and bringing a sense of gentleness and kindness with each breath, a sense of loving kindness, almost like a mantra. Inhale, loving, exhale, kindness. Inhale, loving, exhale, kindness.
John, that's absolutely beautiful.
Good. So I was wondering about timing.
Yeah, you just found out.
Wonderful.
But don't just stop right there, because now we want to have the enormous pleasure of having a bit of an interchange between the two of you. So I'm going to invite, by the way, John, your photographs and the fact that they were the Wellesley campus, of course, just brought me to tears. They were extraordinary, beautiful in your story. I think all of us were deeply moved by it. I hated to cut you off. We could have listened all day. Willa, though, do you have thoughts? Is anything sparked within you as you watched and listened to what John presented?
John, I loved the photos, and what immediately leapt into my mind was how many of them were involved with the plant world and the natural world, how much you were capturing of the wild space, even if it was just a leaf, you know, is wild space in my mind and understanding. And how, when we're talking about, okay, how do we get present? You know, there's, you can talk about presence, but it's not easy to be present. We're so enmeshed, right, in our ideas and our thinking mind and our narratives and our worries and the barrage from our devices. I mean, there's so much that takes us away from the present. How do we become present? And one way that came through those photos is turn attention to wild spaces and move among the plant world. There's something about that that activates this part of us. I think I'm my theory, the animal, we are animals, and the animal knows when it encounters the wild to wake up, to be alert. Like as soon as we're in contact with the sky and the wind and those wild spaces, the plant world, there's a part of us that rises up into presence just by virtue of the connection with our senses, and how that brings us to this place of alertness and wakefulness. So, and maybe for other people, for some people, it may not be only the plant world, it might be the city, it might be, you know, it might be other things, but you know, how the senses can draw us into this place of presence. I loved your photos.
Well, thank you. This wild spaces is what we in our world call wild spaces, which is what is. There's no wild space. You and I are wild space. We are wild space. Our body is wild space. Our cells and our alveoli are wild space. Our gut biomes, and our body, what we call our body, speaks, as you're saying, Willa, with the trees and the leaves, but it also speaks with the concrete and the highways and the metal. This, in some sense, is we are contiguous with all in that way. That's not to say that I think I'm a highway. That's to think that maybe there's some acknowledgement of highway. Maybe there's some awareness. There's an anthropologist by the name of Eduardo Cohn who teaches at McGill, and he's the author of a book called How Forests Think. And he begins
That's
to,
my dog.
How dogs communicate.
is responding. how forests think. But he begins to explore our awareness of the subjectivity of a jaguar or a caper or a monkey, and their awareness of us. And that when we're aware of them in some way other than an object, that their response to us is different.
So this is beautiful. And before we break into our circles, just a few minutes. That the series is called "What Matters Now," and you both have spoken, I think, just incredibly deeply and eloquently about why this presence, this ability to find this presence that you describe, matters for our survival as individuals. That we are just beset and besieged by all of these things that are dragging us down. But help me with the larger question, why it matters for life on the planet, for continuation of life on this planet. How you think of it in that much larger context.
Well, I could take a stab at that. I think I spoke to a little bit of that earlier, the importance of opening up the space of a different kind of time, a deep time, maybe a deep time that is a place of where we can dwell, other than just future. Although, of course, we have to pay attention to the future, right? There's so many things that matter now. But one of those things that matters is that we have a place to be where we can not miss what is here. And I think there is a tendency we could catastrophize our future, or we could be present, right? That's an alternative too, with what is here now, which is beautiful and rich, and calling us into relationship with what needs to be protected and loved. If we're future dwelling, not so much. And love, right? Love is something that blossoms in presence. When we are really present, we can open to connection. When we're not so present, we're closing ourselves off to connection. We are dwelling in the narrative, we're dwelling in the story, but not necessarily dwelling in the immediate connection. And being in that immediate connection to each other, to planet, to wild space, if you will, to plant world, to animal world, being in connection to those living entities, and opening that channel for love is the place where our activism is going to come from. It can come from. And that's a very profound, emotionally motivated change making. So that's my thought, is presence and love are very connected. Love is very connected to how we will be, what we're willing to tolerate and not tolerate in this time. And
Right.
so, this whole series and the practice of counsel is so much about noticing the power of being,
Mm-hmm.
and appreciating the power of being, and particularly being together, connected, the power of that. And when we really get present with each other, so much can happen. So that's my thought about it, just why it matters. So, I mean, the councils their own wisdom is about to blossom, so I turn it over to you, John.
But yes, but thank you. That was absolutely.
We
Yes.
don't have to kill ourselves.
We don't have to kill ourselves. That's one way to protect life on the planet. We don't have to kill ourselves.
Well, there seems to be, with relationship to the present and presence, most of us, one way of looking at it, I think a 13th century Japanese Zen master, Dogen, talks about time in this way, that past and future are in the present. We make them up. Most of us are not in the present. Most of us go present, past, future. Most of us are trying to avoid the past with a future we create, but we're never present to be available for what the mode of being that Willa was describing so well.
Beautifully, yes.
So when we develop our capacity to be present in that way, then this affects all life.
Mm.
And it places us in a perspective that is not hubris,
Mm.
that is not narcissistic. And I think this is the neighborhood of if we talk about in the Buddhist world, if we speak of no self, there's no fixed self. It's not there's no experience of a self.
Yeah.
But two, we let go of that from moment to moment. And when we hold on to the fixations, we cause trouble.
Yeah, thank you. We could go on. We
Yeah.
could go on all morning. This luckily has been recorded. I, for one, will surely go back to this recording, and I think many of us will. I just can't thank you enough, both of you. Lama, Willa, Roshi,
Yeah.
John, I like that. Parallelism, what beautiful teaching you have both brought us today. Thank you so much. So much. Just beautiful. So, Sarah, I think Kyle will now put us in our breakout rooms. Is that what happens?
Yes, let me just say thank you. It was really extraordinary
Yes,
what
it
you've
was.
called us into with your
Yeah.
teaching and your presence today. I'm so grateful to you, dear beings. So yes, here we are. Now we're going into the listening together and speaking into this space of presence together with some simple questions. And Kyle will divide us into rooms, but you can take a break for, let's say, 10 minutes. And so we'll be put into rooms and then we'll come into council. There'll be 5 breakout rooms. And we'll come back into council at 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Good.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you
Okay.
again. Thank you
Thanks,
again.
everybody, and have a very good council. And these people will be in circle with us. So we'll continue from there.